Right, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining this Movo Academy session, which is with Broker Insights. Just remind you, just very quickly, if you can all stay muted, if possible. I will be turning my camera off in a moment. If you've got any questions, the guys would prefer if you can retain these to the end. So if you can at all, that would be really good. But you can use the chat if you prefer, or you can just wait until the end and then just raise it towards the end. But okay, guys, over to you.
Brilliant. Cool. Nice to meet you all. Appreciate you. You're all on mute, so you won't be able to interact with us. But yeah, like Julie said, any questions throughout today's session, yeah, if you could just leave them till the end, so that myself and Richard can pick those up. That would be great. Do you want to present the?
I will. Let me share my screen. So good morning, everybody. Share my screen for you all. Okay, so let's get onto an agenda first things first. Go.
Right.
Right, so what we'll do, I'll hand over to Jamie in just a second, kind of talk you through, give you a bit of an update and a bit of an overview as to who we are, but we'll go through and introduce ourselves, give you a bit of a background about Broker Insights, give you a bit of an overview about what it's all about. There's some objectives as well, purely learning objectives, and that's more so, again, this is CPD time that you can record if needs be. I'll give you a bit of an interactive platform walkthrough. Now, it's usually a lot more interactive when we do kind of live training sessions with individuals. We get people to click along. Again, if same to you guys, really, if you've got access to Broker Insights at the moment, you can log in and view your own data. Feel free to click along with me, and then at the end we'll do some Q&A as well. So let's introduce ourselves. All right, to you, Jamie.
Yeah, guys, so obviously Richard on the call. Richard heads up our customer success department. Essentially, his roles and responsibilities that are sort of not limited to just these, but they're also broadened as well. So Richard looks after the onboarding of our new brokers, training for existing brokers and new brokers to join us, and any implementation that's needed to be done on the platform from their side. Along with Richard is Will. He's one of our other customer success managers that's sort of been with Broker Insights for just over 6 months now, and Richard's been with us for just coming up to a year. So this is a team that's evolved out of the fact that the platform's been developing, and we've realised that we quite clearly need a success team to sort of onboard, train and manage our new brokers that come onto the platform. Myself, I'm one of the trading managers. We have a team of trading managers across the country. I'm based down in the southeast, just outside of Cambridge. So geographically, I sort of pick up yourselves under the geographical position of where I'm based. Some of my roles and responsibilities and how I sort of work with yourselves to get the best out of the platform is I look at how we can support you in working with our partner markets, looking at potential scheme and consolidation opportunities on the platform, oversee platform usage, introducing new markets, and look at reviewing MI across the platform and how you use it. So that's just a few of my roles and responsibilities for yourselves.
All right, good work.
So on the slide, guys, just to give you a bit of context around how we work with you and what it is that we do and what Broker Insights actually is for some of you that may not have used us before. We essentially hold and host a insurtech platform that allows insurers to see and brokers to be seen. We essentially take and ingest your broker data and play this back to you in real time by overlaying insurer appetite across your risk data. We then become the matchmakers by matching the insurer to the broker, depending on the appetite of each insurer. And we are then able to present your data back to you in a way that is easy to understand and is meaningful, keeping it simple so that the data that you have across your book can be used to make informed decisions when they are needed. On this slide, as you can see, are some of our insurer partners. We've got 9 leading UK insurers, as you can see from the names on there, and 5 specialist MGAs. So these partners, they do change from time to time. More so, it's the MGAs that sort of come onto the platform. We are in a lot of conversations with various different insurers and MGAs that work with yourselves on the platform. So how it works is as long as you have a live agency with any one of these insurer partners, then they will be able to see the appetite of the business that they would like to sort of look at from your side of things, and to work with you that way through the platform. All right. So yeah, and just some last figures on the slide as well. As you can see, we've managed to sort of open up and have relationships with these insurers because the amount of commercial GWP that we have on the platform, and the amount of brokers that we're working with across the platform. So yeah, so I'll let Richard sort of explain in a bit more detail about how the platform works and how we look to work with yourselves on there.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, mate. Indeed. So yeah, good morning, everybody. Very well introduced. Yeah, so in terms of what we do as a company, the problem that we are trying to solve, it's if you think about how the insurance market has worked over the last 20, 30, 40, beyond number of years, it's all been very manual, very clunky. So as Jamie's kind of alluded to, we serve as that matchmaker. So we basically sit in between insurers and brokers, and the platform is developed in such a way that it's an intelligent matchmaking service at the end of it. So what the whole vision is for the company and for the platform is ultimately to transform the way the commercial insurance market works by unlocking broker data and enabling insurers and brokers, you guys, to develop a whole new way, an efficient way of working. So what we provide is by providing unique market-leading capability to our partners, the aim is to transform insurer distribution, sales, and deliver trading and broking efficiency. And the way that it works, as Jamie's kind of alluded to already, it's a matchmaking service. It takes your policy data, we overlay our partner insurers trade appetite onto it, so you can see when you're going through your renewal book, for example, which of your policies sit within which insurers trade appetites. The insurers get a cleansed view of the policy data as well. Now, we'll come on to that in a bit more detail in a moment, but what it allows them to do is it means they can proactively go out and see what's going through the market. It allows them to make data-driven market insights decisions as well, helps them really achieve better efficiency within their workflows, and intelligently case-by-case quote matching as well. For yourselves on the platform and the kind of information that you get back from it, it's all data-driven placement insights, so allows you to drive and make decisions based on data rather than based on maybe a bit of paper that was written a few years ago, a few months back, for example. So the whole thing is there to really drive efficiency within your business and ultimately grow your earnings as well. We've got a motto within the company. It's match, connect, place, repeat. So it's about matching your policies with the right people, making sure that connection is there. And this isn't just in the platform. This also comes back into the service that we provide as well. So we can connect you into the right insurers, help you with that placement, and then repeat that process. And that's really there to help you drive a bit of success. So there's a few points on the screen there, and don't worry, I'm not going to take up loads of people's time and talk you through all of it. It's just there to give you a bit of a view. But ultimately, from the data you hold, it means from that complex information you've got, it turns it into actionable information. It allows you to allocate resources and drive efficiencies using that data. And it also means you can use data to inform strategic decisions about your own agency base, what insurers your market you're working with, and what those relationships are, whether they're strong, whether they're weak. Again, that's how we can help with it. Ultimately, it's all there to help you achieve success and improve profitability and maximize your potential. So as Jamie opened up, it allows you guys to be seen and it allows the insurers to see. In terms of the solution and what it is we're trying to drive, so for yourself, for you guys on the call, you're the brokers, it's all about the data that you hold. It's your book of business. We take it, we play it back into you into such a way that you can reflect on it, and you can develop and begin to develop your own placement strategies within your own business and help you improve your relationships. But there's another side of the platform as well. So there's the information that you see, and there's also what the insurers can see within the platform also. So there's two sides to it. The insurers can log into the platform. They can use it to proactively seek out, search for opportunities within our brokers' books of business. And the platform can also be used as a communication tool to help you begin to discuss these opportunities. So as I said, we sit in that middle and we'll host and facilitate that conversation. but your data is played back to you in a really visual way. It's also played back to the insurers, but again, just to try to appease any concerns there, the data is anonymized. They don't see everything. They don't see risk or claims. They don't see client information. What they see is a series, a small series of key points about each policy, such as the type of policy it is, the date of renewal, business description of the client, for example. It just means that they can work out, is there an opportunity there or not, so it can be discussed even further. What we'll do is, if I quickly get the objectives on the screen, what we'll do is we'll, once we've gone through the platform and I've shown you what you guys have and what we've seen in the platform, I'll give you a bit of a rundown at the end of what the insurers can actually see. So I'll get the insurer demo site open as well, give you a little bit of a view of what they can actually search for, how they can use the data, how they can use it to interact with you, just to kind of paint that clearer picture about where the platform sits. So we've covered off who we are. What I'll now do is load the platform open. We'll go through the various screens within the platform in a bit more detail. Use this as a training exercise. So you can, if you've seen the platform, if you've been in and used it before, great. But hopefully I'll be able to show you some things that you might not have thought about or might not have known about in the platform as well. So we'll cover off the placement quilt and the placement strategy page in its entirety. That will also include the an appetite overlay feature, your notes of interest as well, which is that communication base between yourselves and the insurers. There's some really powerful MI tools in the platform as well. So even if you're not using it from a trading perspective, certainly depending on what broking system you've got, from working for a number of brokers before, coming to Broker Insights myself, I know that some broking systems can be quite clunky to get MI data out of. So if your data is going into the platform, there's a couple of screens that you should have access to, which will allow you to see as a rolling 12-month, how your business is doing, where your income is, and how it's really going. So we'll have a look at that as well. And then we'll finish off just on a little bit of how the notifications work and how you can get any additional help up in the platform as well. So let me bring over the site. Now, as one quick caveat before I do start is I'm logged in as a broker demo. So this is my demo site. What I normally do when I'm talking about training is we show live data. As there's a collective amount of brokers in this call, different people from different businesses, what we can't do is show one person's live data. It would be fair for that person. So unfortunately, this is my demo site. This is all dummy information, but I've got all the functionality that you would have, and I can show you how it all works as well. So as that caveat, my demo site is probably the data within it is a few months out of date. Yours will look a lot better than mine, but I can still show you how it all works and give you an idea as to what you can do within it as well. So firstly, when you log in to your platform, you'll get a screen similar to mine, although you should see more data in there. This is your business summary screen. And what it's there is to give you a bit of a summary over your what you've currently got in your commercial book of business, partner insurers that we work with, that you have an agency with, shows you their share of wallet and ultimately what you've got coming up for renewal over those few months. You've also got a number of quick links to the right-hand side of it. So your notes of interest between yourselves and the insurers, and then below that, your renewal book. And we'll come on to explain a bit more about that in a moment. So just quickly running down through the screen, give you a bit of an idea as to what this actually shows and what this all represents. Starting with this GWP opportunity graph to start with. You've got a total GWP in the top left corner, which is that represents your total commercial book of business coming due for renewal over the coming 12 months. So it may not be everything you have in your book. It's just there to show you what you've got coming up over the next 12 months, commercially wise. And it then splits out in two ways. You've got the share of wallet with our partner insurers that you have an agency with. So ours is looking at 17.9% of that share is with those partner insurers, and then the opportunity. And the opportunity represents policies placed in other markets elsewhere. On the opportunity there is it's an opportunity to look at rationalizing your agency base. Are you working with hundreds of different insurers? Is there an argument to try and bring some of those in to preferred partner markets, strengthen some of those relationships a little bit? So the opportunity there is a bit of a key word. We've then split it out per month. And again, excuse the fact I've only got until June next year. What this should show and what it will show on your live data is the full 12 months of renewal. So what you've got coming up we're in December now, crikey. What you've got coming up in the current month of December, all the way through 2023 to the end of December next year as well. If you hover your cursor over each of those monthly bars, it'll show you the total GWP values coming due for renewal in that month, along with the share of wallet between what you've got with the our partner insurers and what's in that opportunity in that yellow category there. It's also interactive. If you click on a month, what it will do is it'll take you into the placement strategy screen, apply a filter, and show you just the policy data that's coming due for renewal in that month. So you can use it as a quick glance to see, oh, well, looking at May, it's a really busy month in May. What have I got coming up? You can click on it. It'll take you to that policy data and you can review it accordingly. You've got a bit of a key below, so you can figure out what actually is in your opportunity and what you've got with the various insurer partners that we have on the platform as well. As I said, to the right of that, you've then got your notes of interest. So this is a two-way stretch. So information or notes of interest rather coming from the insurers and also what you can send on to the insurers. So you should also be able to send your insurers notes of interest. I'll come on to how that works in a short while, but in terms of what that note of interest represents, if the insurers are sending you a note of interest, it means they've identified an opportunity in their book, in your book of business, and they want to discuss it with you. It's them expressing their interest in a policy. Now, again, they can't see all of the policy detail there. So when your note of interest comes in, you'll see how many you've received, how many are sat pending for you to go and review. And there's a view link at the end of that line. You can click on it, take you straight to it. If you do want to have conversations with the insurers who've sent you those notes, you can accept the note of interest. That will send a response back to the insurer to go, yep, this person is happy to talk to you about this case. Go ahead and contact them. Sometimes, however, you might look at a policy and think, they're never going to want to talk about that. That's got a horrific claims experience, or it's a really niche specialist kind of policy. It's got a very weird, obscure risk detail somewhere in the lines, in which case you can reject your note of interest. And that will feed back to the insurers the reasons why as well. So you can see how many you've accepted and are having conversations with the insurers and how many you've rejected, and that goes no further. On a similar kind of token, what you can do is when you're going through your own renewal book, and I'll show you how this works in a moment, is when you're reviewing policies due for renewal, if a policy sits in the sweet spot of any of our partner insurers' trade appetites, you can send them a note of interest. And that's meant to be to save you some time in, if you're putting together a presentation, perhaps you might send it on to 10, 15, maybe 20 different insurers. Ahead of sending out that presentation, if you can send out any of our partner insurers a note of interest, it just means that you can start those conversations off before sending it on to loads of different markets and potentially alienating other insurers as well. So again, we'll come on to how that works in a moment, but it just means you can send the insurers a note of interest, start that discussion off. And a similar thing, you can see how many you've sent, how many are pending with your insurers, how many they've accepted and are happy to discuss with you. And like yourselves, they can also reject it. It might be too close to quote, or it might not be quite in their appetite. If it's changed, they can reject it as well, in which case you will get fed back. So all of these links will go to your note of interest page, apply the relevant filters, and just show you what you've either received or what you've sent, and show you in their various states. We'll have a look at that shortly. Then below that, you've got one more box talking about policy renewals. So in my demo site, it's saying I've got 554 policies that are renewing and have matched the appetites of our partner insurers. And the way that works is kind of a bit of a clever process. So when the policy data is being ingested, when it's going into the platform, so when it's being uploaded, what we do is we, as I mentioned, we overlay all of our partner insurers' trade appetite onto each policy. It then does a little scan at the renewal dates and goes, okay, well, these are the policies that sit in those appetites and that are also within the next 2 to 3 months of renewal. And it's giving you that list. So I've got 554 policies that are within my renewal lead time, which I've got set in the platform. The default is 60 days. So if yourselves, when you're looking at that screen, unless you've been in the settings and changed it yourselves, it should be any policy that sits within 60 days of renewal and meet the appetite of an insurer. You can click on that link and it'll give you that list. And what I always say when I'm doing this kind of training to any of our brokers is it's there to work alongside your existing renewal reports that you'll be getting from your existing systems, whether it's OpenGI or Actress or SSP or any of those other systems. If you're producing a renewal report every day, every few days, every week, etc., and looking at those cases that are due for renewal, have a look at this alongside of it. And it just means that if there are any cases you're looking to remarket, you should be able to get a bit of insight from that as to which insurers you could target and speak to ahead of sending out presentations and starting that marketing exercise. So hopefully that all makes sense. Again, if anybody has any questions, feel free to put them in the chat or leave them to the end and we'll go through and answer them. Hopefully I might answer some as I'm going along. As I'm logged in as somebody who does data uploads, I've also got an additional box talking about my data uploads. And embarrassingly, you can see the last time I did a data upload. Ideally, data uploads should be done at least every month. So ignore mine. Mine's a poor example, but you guys no doubt keep up to date with it. So that's great. Moving on from here, we'll then go to the placement strategy screen next. Now here we're talking, this serves as both an MI tool and as a placement tool. There is further MI reports you can get out of the platform, which we'll talk about at the end. You've got these insights and GWP and income tabs at the top, which we'll look at towards the end of this. But this does serve as an MI tool in its own right. So the placement strategy page is where we take your commercial book of business, it's visualized, it's played back to you, and all of our partner insurers trade appetite is overlaid onto it on the screen also. First thing you'll see, probably draw your attention to, is that lovely colorful grid here in the middle. This is what we call our placement quilt. And this represents a visual display of your existing agency base. So all of the insurers that you've got, that you're working with, if they've got a live policy with, and that policy is currently on cover at the moment, it'll be reflected back in here. So each tile represents, as you can guess, an insurer account, and the size of each tile represents the size of the account. As you can see, I'm hovering my cursor over the tiles, and it plays back to you the GWP values that make up each of those accounts. It's also interactive. So if I just quickly scroll down a second, you can see I've got below it, I've got a series of stats and my policy data, which is making up that quilt as well. So when I say it's interactive, if I click on a tile, let's click on Aviva, it's the top right corner of that screen, then Aviva, it'll play back all of the current policies that I've got with Aviva. So just playing back to you what you have with that account. And you can click on it again and it'll put it back to the way that it was beforehand. And you can see the stats also change to reflect it. So at the moment, in its whole form, you've got, certainly in my case, I've got 68 insurers. Those are live agencies. So again, that might not be every agency I've signed, but that is every agency I have a live policy with. I've then got total number of live commercial policies and my total GWP value made up in that quilt as well. And as you can see, I've already mentioned, if I scroll down, I've then got my policy list. Now, this is all 918 policies in my demo site, but I'm only playing back, it'll be the same for yourselves. This is only the top 10 being played back to you at one stage. You can scroll through the screens and view further, or you can increase the number of results per page from 10 all the way up to 200 if you want to. There's also a search bar. Now, this will come in handy if you are, we'll come onto the placement side of it in a moment, but you can search on any of the data points you can see below that. So the data we play back to you will be your back office reference, whether it's Actress or OGI or SSP, or you'll be able to recognize it, find the policy in question. We play back the customer name, who the handler is, the policy number, the insurer, the products, and the class, and then the renewal date, and then the premium. What we've then done is we've added 2 additional columns. So the very first one on the left-hand side here is our BI ID number. So I've already mentioned that the insurers, although they can see and they can search your book of business for opportunities, the data they see is all anonymized. They don't see client names and addresses, they don't see policy numbers and references, and they don't see risk info or claims info. So that BI ID number is a unique reference given to every policy that goes through our platform, and it serves there as a conversation piece. If you're talking to an insurer about a policy, exchange that BI ID number. It means you can search for it, as can the insurers. So you can type it into that search box, find the case in question, and that discussion can take place. It's also worth thinking about if an insurer does ask you for a presentation about any of these cases that you've identified in the platform, pop that ID number onto the presentation or in the body of the email. It means the insurers can track it back to the platform as well. What we've then done is we've also overlaid the insurer's appetite onto the book of data. So the very far right-hand side, we've got this in appetite column, and this is where that takes place. And the best way of thinking about it, it's a bit like a RAG score, your red, amber, and green scoring. So if there are any policies that do not sit in, as far as we can see, in the insurer's trade appetite, you'll see there'll be an empty space there. So we haven't identified as it's sitting in anyone's appetite. It's there, but it doesn't link to anybody, in which case, if you are looking to remarket any of those cases, any of those policies, do what you would normally do, send out your presentations or log onto E-Trade websites, etc., and via the normal process. However, if we can identify it as being sat in the appetite of an insurer, if it's in that amber section, so it's in someone's appetite, but maybe not quite in that sweet spot yet, you'll just see the insurer logo, hover your cursor over it, it'll play back their name. That'll be both insurers and MGAs. Generally speaking, it might be that the premium isn't quite high enough for that insurer, but you can still discuss it with them, and the likelihood is they'll still be able to process it as a quote. So have a chat with them if needs be. Also, and lastly, if it does sit in that green section in the insurer's sweet spot of trade appetite, what you'll see is the little broker insights eye logo. If you hover your cursor over it, it'll identify which insurers it is, and there'll be a send notes button. And this is where you can send your note of interest off to the insurers. So if you look at any of these, it'll play back different insurers, usually different ones on each one, and you can send them a note of interest. So I said this a moment ago, it might be ahead of sending out any presentations. If you've got a big policy, 100 grand policy or a 50 grand policy that you need to place, for example, by all means, put the presentation together before you send it out. Send on a note of interest to any of the insurers it sits in the appetite of and have a discussion with them first. It might save you guys some time and effort. It might also save you alienating any other insurers who you'd send it to who absolutely won't quote for that policy as well. And the way that it works, you hit the send notes button. It comes up with the screen asking who do you want to send it to. You can tick one or as many insurers are listed there, and you can hit the send notes button, and it will then ask you for a series of comments. So the comments form the basis of a bit more of an argument for placing that risk. So it might be additional detail about a business description, it might be a bit of a summary about claims or risk info, target premium, etc. You've got a couple of examples there as well. But again, the insurers don't see a lot of information already. All they'll see are a few key data points about each policy. So this is your chance to back up that case, make it worthwhile to have a conversation with them. Hit that send notes button. It'll go over to those insurers. They'll get notified that you've sent them a note of interest, and they'll respond accordingly. Generally, they'll accept the note and they'll pick up the phone and give you a call. Let's talk about this case. Or they might arrange a meeting. If there's a few cases they want to talk to you about, they might arrange a meeting and have those discussions further from there. I haven't said this already, so I will just make a point of it now. This is not a quote and bind system. It is a conversation starter. It's about matching you with the right people and the right risks and having those conversations, those targeted conversations going forwards. And that is the exact point of these notes of interest, is to start that conversation off. So hopefully that all makes sense. Again, if anybody has any questions, just make a note of them and we'll happily answer them towards the end of that. So in terms of the data we're playing back, at the moment, we're playing back in premium descending order. So the highest premiums will be at the top, working your way down. That may not always be the best way of using this screen. You can reorder it by clicking on any of these column headers, whether it's reordering it by handler or putting it in policy order or insurer order. A really good example is by clicking on the renews column and popping it into renewal date order instead. Now, again, my data is way out of date. Some of these cases are still back from June, but still, the point is you can work your way through this like a renewal due list and start working maybe a few months ahead, which policies are coming up for renewal and which insurers are they sitting in the trade appetite of. That's the whole point of that. You have got some additional tools above. If we scroll back up, so a couple of filters to the left-hand side of the placement quilt. You've got 3 key filters, and then you've got some advanced filters that sit below that as well that you can expand out, but we'll come on to those in a second. So to allow you to chop and change and drill into that data a bit further, you can, first of all, the first one is the held insurer filter, which is basically the same as me clicking on a tile in the quilt. So if I click on choose ERS this time, for example, you'll see it puts ERS in that held insurer filter. So it does go hand in hand, but it means it allows you to identify any insurers that you want to have a close look at and find the policies that sit with that insurer. As an example, if you get wind of an insurer pulling out of a market and want to see what policies you have with that insurer, it's a really quick and easy way of doing so. Go into that drop-down list, go ahead, and even if in case you can't find them, if you start typing, you'll get the insurer coming up in question. You can go ahead and you can select them and start identifying those cases in question that way. And it just means that if you want to have a look at remarketing, if they're pulling out of a market, you want to see where you can remarket them, you can scroll down and you can see which insurers they fall into the trade appetite of. Is an example of where that field can come in handy. The next one, renewal month, self-explanatory, finding cases due for renewal in a certain month. It goes up to 12 months ahead, and you can pick one or as many different months as you wish to see. So I'm now looking at my data from January, February, March. So Q1 into the new year, we can have a look at what we've got coming up for renewal. It's still in renewal date order at the moment. I can see from the 1st or 2nd of Jan what policies I have that I may wish to remarket and which insurers I could speak to about remarketing those cases. So that just allows you to be a little proactive with it, looking ahead of what you've got coming up for renewal and thinking about those placements. The third filter is your appetite matched insurer. So the way that this works, this is finding all policies that match the appetite of a given insurer. So think about it like this. If you've got a meeting coming up with any of our partner insurers, let's say Ecclesiastical, as they're on my screen there. Let's say, rather than one of their BDMs coming out to visit you and going, what have you got coming up for renewal that we can have a discussion about? Let's print out a renewal report. And this one, you can't talk about that one. This one's not in your appetite. Forget those kind of conversations. If they are coming out to visit you, or you've got a meeting coming up with an insurer, go ahead and select them from in here. And this will find all policies that you currently hold that sit in that insurer's trade appetite. And that can form the basis of that meeting. You can even go one step further. And rather than looking at actually in broker insights, any managers should have the option to download policy details. This will give you a CSV file of that data there, anything in this list. So it means you can take it offline and have a chat with the insurers about it in that meeting if you wish to do so. Moving on from there, you've then got the advanced filters. This allows you just to drill into that data a little bit more detail. You can filter by product, your overall products, so things like your commercial motors, your engineering, liability, package and property, and so on. But there's loads of classes that make up those kinds of products. So what you can do is you can also, as well as filtering by product, you can go straight into that product class. And let's say I want to find all my motor trade cases, for example. I can go in, I can start typing, find motor trade, and have a discussion with perhaps with an underwriter looking for a set type of motor trade. I can just go ahead and discuss all of those cases in that way there. And again, using that download policy details button, it can serve as an MI tool. These are all my motor trade cases. These are the premiums. I can develop that into some kind of pivot table or a graph and work out where they're with and what I want to do with them. So again, it can serve as that MI tool in that respect as well. The next one is premium. This is your premium band. Now, I know there's a lot of really good broking systems out there that have got some really good e-trade facilities. For example, Actress have a very powerful e-trade facility. Now, a lot of the e-trade commercial stuff is based on premium. So generally speaking, this isn't a rule, but generally speaking, anything, I say below 15, 10 grand, for example, you can generally place e-trade as long as it's not a niche category. If it's over that, then quite often it needs some more work putting into it. It might be a more manual quote. You might have to go onto various trade websites, put together presentations, that kind of thing. This premium band allows you to identify those cases. So if you want to filter out any e-trade cases, for example, and just focus on the larger cases, then you can apply a filter. Let's say anything above 10, 15, 25 and upwards. If this was my live policy book, I would need to put together presentations about these cases. So it just means that ahead of doing so, I can identify which insurers I'd wish to target and send those presentations onto. So that premium band filter can really, really come in handy. It can also work the other way. If you do want to identify those e-trade cases or those smaller kind of micro SME type stuff, you absolutely can do. The last filter, I won't go into too much detail about this one, is status. This is talking about your note of interest. So as when you're sending your notes of interest onto insurers, if you want to identify any that they've accepted or any that have been rejected or whatever it might be, you can apply that filter. However, and the reason I'm not going to go into much more detail in this case is because scrolling up, we have a dedicated notes of interest screen where you can see all of that in its entirety. This just allows you to review it from a placement perspective. If there's any that have been rejected, can they be placed with another partner insurer elsewhere, for example, is where that can come in handy. There are a few other filters below that. Insurer type, you can filter between what you currently have outside of our partner market. So looking back at the business summary screen we looked at a moment ago, this would represent the opportunity. So anything that's not placed with our partner insurers. And again, you can look at that. Well, is there an opportunity to move them in to any of those preferred partner markets if you wish? You can also flip it on its head and have a look at all cases currently with any of our partner insurers, see the size of those books of business and how they are behaving. And again, that's also something Jamie can help you with from a placement perspective. If there's conversations to be had there about improving, strengthening those relationships, we can do so. And then the last one would be, just want to mention the show renewals in appetite button. This is the same button as you saw on the business summary screen where you can go ahead and view any renewals in appetite. And if I give that a click now, it applies all of the filters in this appetite matched insurer option and it turns on my show policies in lead time switch. So I've mentioned that at the beginning when I was talking about the business summary screen. The system does have a lead time, a renewal lead time built into it. The default is set at 60 days. Any managers can go in and they can change that by clicking on your username and going into the settings, and there's a renewal lead time option in there. You can change the default. You can make it bigger, smaller. You can also have a series of rules. So have a default maybe at 60 for larger policies, have a maybe 90 to 100 days, smaller policies, less than. It's up to you. What it does do is it applies that filter, and it'll only then play back to you policies that are coming due for renewal and that also meet the appetites of any of our partner insurers. So again, as I mentioned on the business summary screen, it's not there to replace, it's there to work alongside your existing renewal reports that you will be getting from your existing broking systems. So that's your placement strategy screen in as brief a nutshell as I can go into, in as much detail as I can do it as well. It's there to give you that visual representation of your book of business. Can also serve as an MI tool as well, but predominantly it's there to be used as a trading tool to allow you to see where you can place things and how you're performing in any of your agencies that you might have. We'll come on to some more MI tools in a few moments as well. Just finishing off the main section of the platform, notes of interest. So your notes of interest screen, I've already mentioned this a few times. This screen here serves as your pipeline of activity with our partner insurers, and it's a two-way system. So it's a push and pull system. So it works. Think of it a little bit like Outlook, where you've got your inbox, items that you've received in from insurers, and you've got an outbox, items that you've sent in to the insurers as well. When you go to it, it'll default to your received section, but notice you've also got a sent section as well. So any notes of interest that you've received from our insurers will be listed below, and they will all come in with an action required status. And what you've got to do is go ahead, have a look at those policies in your broking system. Is it something you want to discuss with that insurer? Is it something you want to bring to market and discuss with them? If so, in which case, change that status to be accepted. That will send a note off to the insurer, go, yep, this person's happy to talk about this policy, go ahead and contact them. However, if it's not a case that you want to bring to market, maybe it's a very niche experience or it's got a horrific claims experience within it, then that's fine. You can reject those notes of interest as well. So in which case, change the status to be rejected, and you'll get this box appear, giving you the chance to fill in a reason as to why it's been rejected. Now, there's two sections in here. You've got a drop-down box with some generic reasons. This is mandatory. Put something in, whether it's claims history or it's already with a preferred market, anything, any of these options, you'll have a comments box below. If you want to, you can expand on that and elaborate on that. The only time it's a little bit obscure is if you have any policies that fall under a long-term agreement. So if they are under LTA, when you choose that option, that comments box will change to be expiry year. This will feed back to the insurers. Actually, this policy is not due to come off cover for another 2 years yet. And the insurers will make a note of it. It updates the renewal date on their side of the system, and they'll know not to send you any more notes of interest until closer to that time. There is a third option though, and that is under review. So you get your note of interest in. If it's quite far away from renewal perhaps, or maybe you've not decided what your approach is going to be for that renewal yet. Maybe you just need a bit more time to review the strategy for it. What you can do is you can use the under review option. It's kind of a polite way of sending a note back to the insurer to go, yep, we've got your note of interest. We're not ignoring you. We're just not in a position to talk about it yet. Bear with us. And they will wait until you are ready. And in which case you can go in and you can mark it from under review to either accepted or rejected, whichever you see fit, whichever is the most relevant option in there. So hopefully that all makes sense. But this will give you some relevant information about each case, the reference. There's that BIID number again. Your customer, it'll tell you which insurers are sending you the notes of interest, along with either the BDM or the underwriter who physically clicks send on it. Now, within reason, they should all be people you speak to or know already. If not, don't worry about it. Pick up the phone, have a chat with them. But again, they should be based on regional offices, and it's the people who generally you'll be dealing with in those insurer offices already. You've got the products, the premium, the handler, the renewal date, and then the note of interest status. When it was added and the last time it was updated, that might be when they sent it to you, that might be when you responded and went from there. So these are your sent items. You've got a number of filters above that where you can filter again by product, by handler. There's a clever one here, submitted by. This is submitting it. This is applying a filter based on the insurer who sent you those notes of interest. This can also form the basis of any meetings you might have with those insurers. So it might be, I've got a meeting coming up with Ecclesiastical. I just want to see all the notes of interest they've sent me so I can discuss them in my meeting with Ecclesiastical and go further from there. I can also filter by status, find all the ones that need attention, ones where I've accepted, I might be discussing further, again, discussing that meeting, any that I've rejected where I can be removed, and any that are under review that I can go back to, and I can either mark it as accepted or rejected accordingly as well as. So that status filter will just help you see the wood through the trees. If you've got loads of notes of interest going on, it means you can filter and apply those changes accordingly. The last one on here is showing policies in lead time. Let me just remove the ecclesiastical filter a second. Now, all of the policies that I've got on here, all of these notes of interest are based on ones that sit in my 60-day renewal lead time. If I turn that off, then I will get more. If I go to my next screen, you'll see ones there in May, February and beyond in 2023. They sit outside of my lead time and they will just sit there until I come up. But it's always worth knowing about that switch in case you do have a meeting coming up with any of these insurers. You can turn it off and identify any cases that they might have sent you that you can still discuss in that meeting. So that's just one to be aware of. Turn it off from time to time, or certainly ahead of any insurer meetings, and see what else they've sent you, just so they don't question you about a case that you're not aware of. So that's more received options. In my sent ones, the only really thing to, I suppose, mention about this is it's to keep on top of any insurer responses. As when you've sent off notes of interest to your insurers, follow them up. If the insurers aren't responding to you, follow them up. This will tell you where they're currently at though. So each case you've sent, you'll get the same information. So the reference, the ID number, the customer, etc. The key one is this column on the right-hand side here, giving me the status. If there's any egg timers, that means they're pending. The insurers haven't picked them up yet. Any green ticks means, yep, the insurers have accepted it. They're either going to contact you or they've asked you to send in a presentation. Have a look at the response and go from there accordingly. If there are any, I haven't got any. If there are any red crosses, that means the insurers have rejected them. If there are any little orange, what looks like a little clock face, it means the insurers have also marked it as under review as well. But come in here from time to time, have a look at where that status is. Are the insurers dealing with it yet? If you have any problems with the insurers, reach out to the insurers by all means, but we can also help you. So if you're not getting the responses you require from the insurers, pick up the phone, speak to Jamie. We can jump on a call with the insurer and have that further discussion from there as well. Okay, so that's the kind of the core functionality of the platform. So I've talked you through placement strategy screen, your notes of interest, your pipeline of activity. As I said, the whole thing is there to serve as a conversation piece between you and the insurers. I'll give you a rundown on the insurer side of the platform just at the end, obviously within timeframes, just to make sure I'm not making you guys late for any of the meetings. But the last little bit for me to talk about in here is the other side of the platform that you can get the MI data from. So again, I used to do a lot of work with OpenGI and Actress. I know you can get a lot of information from those broking systems. However, as a really quick click, you've got an Insights tab, which will show you for a rolling 12 months, your insurer strengths. So all of the insurers you've got in your book of business, where you were last year versus where you are this year. Again, mine aren't great. My data is a bit out of date now, but it will just give you a bit of an idea as to actually how your business is performing at strategic insurer account level. It'll break down your GWP by partner insurers and what you've got with non-partners, what you've got with partners over those rolling 12 months, and then breaking down those insurers and just give you a bit of a strength. So how much have you grown those accounts by talking to our partner insurers? And then lastly, by product class, so you can see what you've got in your book of business, which are your most selling products, and then what you've got with partner insurers and what you haven't. And you can scroll that through and you can see it's all interactive, it's all very fluid, and all of these charts will change as you scroll through. You've got filters to the left of it. You can filter by office if you've got multiple offices. You can filter by your commercial book or your personal lines book, and you can go into specific products if you wish to as well. So again, nothing you can't get out of your broking systems, but as a really quick glance of how your business is performing, that's still a very powerful tool too. So I recommend going in there and having a look when you get a chance. From a GWP and income perspective, this final one will give you some graphs based on your income, based on your size of your book, the GWP values. Again, it's rolling 12 months. So you've got your rolling 12-month GWP stats, where you were versus how you are now. Your rolling 12-month income. So again, where you were 12 months ago versus where you are now, can see how you've grown. You've got some stats, your total combined gross written premium, and then over the last 12 months, what the incomes have been, your average commission rates, client fee income, etc., your fee penetration rate percentage, which, talking from a previous experience as somebody who supported multiple brokers, that's a difficult figure to work out in Excel, especially if you've got multiple different systems, but it's there for you and it's nice and easy to see. And you can also see what your income is based on from classes and your average income by products classes as well. And there's a series of filters to the left where you can filter again by your type of book, where you're looking at commercial or personal products, product classes, and even looking at individual months as well. So again, it's not information you can't already get from your broking systems, but this is a quick and easy way of just having a quick glance. So again, have a look at it and see what information you can get from there. To very quickly finish off my demonstration before we go into questions, what I'd like to do is also give you a quick rundown just for the next few minutes on what the insurers can see in the data and how they can use the platform to go ahead and search and interact with you guys. So let me just bring over this screen here. This is my insurer demo site. This one's a little bit more up to date. So the way that this works is in the insurer partners, they log in, they've got a similar looking platform, they've got a similar looking home screen. So rather than it being 12 months, they've got a 6-month forecast of what they have in their pipelines. They can see what brokers they're dealing with, and they can see notes of interest sent and received. Bit like you get your renewals, the insurers get recommendations. So the recommendations is another aspect of the insurance platform that they like. And the way it works in here is they can see what policies we've recommended to them that sit in their sweet spot of trade appetite. We make recommendations to our insurer partners every month, usually at the start of every month, after the data's come in from broker uploads. It's all been ingested, all the appetite's been overlaid on it, and we'll work out all the policies that are within 3 months of renewal and go, these are all the ones that are coming up in the next 3 months due for renewal, sit in your sweet spot, go ahead and speak to the brokers about them. It's a really good hot list of leads that the insurers love. What they've got though is they can, as well as those recommendations, they can go in and they can prospect search. So this is the kind of the key point I want to show you guys is the data they can see to try and appease any concerns anybody might have about us sharing broking information. It's very limited. It's very, very anonymized. So what we'll do is quickly talk to them as filters. So again, they can search by products, by class, they can search by trade. So if they're looking for certain businesses, for example, they can see what we've got within our broker data. They can search on premium band and identify cases that sit within their appetite. They can search on renewal month, so being proactive, looking at 3 to 6 months ahead, start getting those conversations going already. They can also target their competitors. So like yourselves, if an insurer gets wind of another insurer pulling out of a market, they can find that insurer and go, well, these are the opportunities that are sat with that insurer. Let's speak to the brokers about them, see if we can win some of those cases. It's all about that. They can also target certain brokers. So again, the insurers know if they have a meeting coming up with you, it might be that they'll just focus on your office, identify some cases to talk about in that meeting. So let me just run a very, very quick commercial motor search. I'll go ahead and search and I'll show you what the data looks like. Here we go. So when running the search, the platform will give them total number of opportunities over how many broker offices and what all those premiums are about. Now, they'll get the list of results per broker office. So again, it helps them build up their pipelines. It helps them in their meetings with their brokers. If we just look at this very top one for a second, I've got 94 opportunities altogether. And if I click on view policies, each one of these rows is a policy. So what we play back to the insurer is the current holding insurer, unless it's with one of our partner insurers, in which case it will just show partner insurer. We play back the client postcode taken from your client level 1 screens, an approximate value of the premium. It's not the exact premium because of the competition rules. Therefore, it's a rounded value. It's rounded up to the nearest 1,000, 10,000, or in the large cases, nearest 100. So it's always a rounded value. It's an approximate value. We play back the renewal date, which is kind of important. Whoops. We'll play back the products and the subclass of products. So you can see commercial motor, motor trade, agricultural. So what class is it? We'll also play back the trade. So this will be the business description taken from your broking system. Now, where that might not be filled in, for any limited companies, we also do a call out to Companies House, and we'll just play back the Companies House SIC code or the business description from there as well. So if I click on that case, you can see we've got the business description as set by the broker, and we've also got a Companies House description as well. This is as much information as we're allowed to show our insurers that brokers we've come onto the platform are happy with us sharing. So it's not enough to identify the client or steal the risk, for example, but it is enough to identify, is it a viable opportunity to start talking about and go from there. And all they'll do is a bit like online shopping. They can go through here, they can identify cases that they want to buy, and using this assign to me option kind of goes into their shopping basket. Once they're in there, they'll go to their prospect workflow, and it's from here that the insurers can reach out and can communicate with yourselves. So what they'll be able to see is any items that we've recommended or that they've allocated themselves, and they'll be able to send you a note of interest for any cases that they wish to talk about. So the workflow screen looks a bit like this. They've got a bit of a high level view of what they've got, and they can expand each case out and see a bit more detail, again, such as the insurer. There's the broker insights ID number. The only additional information we share is the handle name. So it just means they know actually when they contact your broker office, who is it that's got the risk? Speak to the appropriate person. Contact information and share of wallet stats is also played back to the insurer, so they know, again, who to speak to, what those contact details are, and actually how strong a relationship they've got with yourselves. From here, they can send you a note of interest, and it just goes off to the broker like so. There's no comments, there's no notes. It just serves as that conversation piece. So if an insurer's done that, they'll send you a note of interest. You'll get that on your screen, and you can, like I showed you, decide whether you want to accept it or decline it, however you want to do so. Any cases that sit outside of your trade appetite, the insurers could still send you that note of interest, but they'll get a little warning triangle saying it's out of interest. You can still send it, but the broker may not see it straight away. Same one here as well. They get that note. They can also, if you reject any cases, they'll also get that feedback on here as to why it's been rejected. And much like yourselves, if you use that under review option, they'll get a little orange clock face saying, yep, the broker is not happy to talk about it just yet, but we'll get back to you. So hopefully this, just me showing you these few screens on the insurer side, gives you a little bit of an understanding about how the insurers how they use the platform, the level of data they can see, and what it's all there for. If I just go back to my broker platform for a second, just to quickly finish off on notifications and where to get help. So as and when notes of interest are going through and from the platform, firstly, you'll see them on your summary screen here. You'll also get this little alarm bell in the top corner of your screen, which will show you what you've got. If there's any new, so in my case, I've received 5 notes of interest. I can click on that. It'll take me straight to the screen and show me those 5 that need actioning. So you've got that alarm bell in the platform. We also send out emails every Tuesday and every Friday advising anybody with an outstanding action, whether it's a note of interest that needs actioning or it's been marked as under review, so you don't forget about it. Those emails will go out every Tuesday and every Friday as well. If you are looking to recap on this, I know Julie's recording this, but if you do want to have a little recap, there is some information on the platform. You've got this little orange question mark, which will trigger a walkthrough explaining the screen you're on and show you a bit of information about it. And then down in the bottom right-hand corner, you've got this help option, which contains various walkthroughs about a bit more detail about each screen, and you can have a read through in there. But by all means, reach out. We'll gladly help out if there are any questions at any point. So that does lead me nicely on to the very last bit of, does anybody have any questions at all? Feel free to take yourselves off mute. I'm just going to get the chat window open if I can. Anybody's asked a question? No one's asked any questions yet. Are there any questions from anybody?
I suppose if there isn't, we can take them away.
Absolutely.
Guys, you can speak to obviously Judy. He will relay them back to us, or ask for our email addresses, and we'll gladly sort of answer any questions or any queries that anyone's got. as well.
I've got a couple I'll raise actually.
Yeah, go for it.
How often do the insurers tell you about a change of their risk appetite? Is it sort of pretty quick?
Yeah, it is. We've got a team of people who deal with appetite at Broker Insights. There's two main people that will look after it in terms of the platform. We have regular meetings with the insurers, and at the moment, the way the appetite works, it is a bit of a manual process. So they'll send through like a spreadsheet every couple of weeks or whenever there's been a change to it, we'll review it, key it into the platform. But we are working on a self-service solution, so the insurers can just go in, press a few buttons, and the appetite's updated in real time. But at the moment, it is a bit of a manual process. It involves a chat every few days, every week, if so. But it is pretty quick. It's whenever they update it, as long as they know to tell us, we'll turn around within a few days and getting it in.
Okay. And the other thing I noticed was on the notes of interest, where it sometimes it comes up and it says you can just post the notes of interest reply, but QBE came up and it came up with a message saying about phoning QBE directly. Yeah. Is that unusual? Is that because you're in a test environment, or
No, good question. So you're talking about, let me get the screen back up. I know exactly where you were. Let me just share my screen again. This was on the placement strategy screen. And when that happens, we just find one example in question. Might have been one of these. This one here, for example. Here we go. Look at this one. So as an example, when I'm sending off a note of interest, have I not? Sorry. No. Apologies. There we go. How about now? Hopefully you can now see that. That's better. There we go. I'm not used to using Zoom, so an amateur mistake. Apologies. Right. So when you go to send a note of interest, if it's in the insurer's sweet spot of trade appetite, you'll be able to send them that note, not a problem. In this case, I can send NBS underwriting a note of interest, but not QBE. And that's because for QBE, it's in their appetite, but not in their sweet spot. So it means looking at that red, amber, green score in that RAG score, for NBS, it's in the green section. For QBE, it might be in the amber category. So what it's saying here is it's not valid for note of interest, so contact them directly. So because it's not quite in that sweet spot of trade appetite, then what we'd suggest is follow your normal means of communication, whether it's sending them an email, pick up the phone, speak to them directly. It is in their trade appetite, but there's something about it. Generally speaking, it might be the premiums not quite as high as they'd be looking for. But if you speak to them, pick up the phone, for example, they can explain why and what's going on with it. But that's all that means. It is normal. It just means that it's not in their sweet spot, so you can't send them a note of interest. But by all means, you can still have a conversation with that insurer about it externally off the platform. Does that make sense, Julie?
Yeah, that does. It's great.
No problem. Any other questions at all?
Has anybody else got any questions? Please don't be shy, guys.
We don't bite.
Not for me, thanks.
No problem at all.
Have you found that useful, John?
Yeah, thanks, Judy. I've often got the emails, and probably gives me a bit more of an explanation as to exactly what the underwriters are seeing as well, because I'll often go back and ask them queries, and they don't know because they obviously haven't got all the full information. That has been very useful.
Excellent.
That's good. Good to know.
Good.
Right. Well, if we've got no more questions, I'll stop recording just in case. And but thank you everybody for joining this session.